was one of the incidences that did not make it into the journal was a few nights ago, amidst putting several other fires out. Arguments and soldiers with PTSD screaming and people cold and firewood needed there and medical needed there and army tent breaking down, catching fire, just one thing after the other. And it's just getting to the point of being able to rest for a few minutes, and someone comes in a panic saying that weapons have been drawn on the bridge, which is the front line, about 200 meters away from where we were based, and just did a real instantaneous assessment of the situation. And even though I had an entire platoon of Marines with me, I chose to go up there solo so as to not provoke the police, who were pretty itchy with their weapons. And I didn't know that it was the police that had drawn the weapons. I thought it was the agitators or the DAPL security thugs who had drawn their weapons on the protesters, or the protectors as they call themselves. So I decided to bring my company commander with me. I said, "Carlos, you're with me," and I just headed straight up the hill. And it was deep snow, and I was going uphill, running pretty fast. He twisted his knee, fell behind. I looked back, he wasn't behind me. I figured just as well. So I got up to the road, and I'm walking toward the bridge, and the bridge and the police have bright lights shining down toward us. So I couldn't really see, except for 3 groups of people coming back toward me. I asked the first group, "What's going on?" They're like, "Oh, false alarm." I'm like, I was going to turn around at that point, instead kept going. Second wave of people, talking 10, 20 people in groups. And I said, "What news from the bridge?" They're like, "Oh, false alarm, nothing." And then there was one more group closer to the bridge, and so I decided to go ask them. Same thing. Each group said nothing's happening. So it's shocking how fast news travels in camp. It's quite remarkable, for better or for worse. So now I'm approaching the bridge, and being solo, I felt good. I didn't feel like I was in danger. There was no one left there except whoever was behind the lights in the form of the police. So I walk up to the cement barricades, and there's concertina wire, razor wire, over the top of the cement blocks. And I stand there, and it's cold, howling wind. It's about 30 below or 40 below. And I wave my arms like this, I show that I'm not armed, and I wave my arms, and I had a feeling that was going to get their attention, and waved them once, waved them twice, nothing. So I just did it again. I just held my arms up there, and then a cop comes out. He says, "What do you want?" I said, "What happened?" He said, "Can't you see?" I couldn't see with the lights in my face. And then he pointed out that the razor wire had been cut. And he said that these agitators keep coming up, cutting the wire, and pulling the blockade down and back with a semi. And he gave me a name. He said Michael Marcus has been coming up there repeatedly, cutting the wire, removing the blocks, filming it, and putting it on Facebook. This is in direct violation of the elders' wishes, as well as the wishes of everyone else in camp that was not an agitator. I mean, one of the biggest threats of the entire operation, after the initial shootings of bullets and people being hit by water cannons and sound percussion cannons and beaten with billy clubs, the main threat after that was these agitators who kept provoking the police, so that when a peaceful demonstration happened, the police retaliated against the demonstrators, because to the police it was not a peaceful demonstration. They're under attack, and plus they're sitting there on duty in the cold, sitting on their butts. They're in clear and present danger, but they can't fire back, or they can't really defend themselves. So I had a bit of empathy for the police, especially after the state trooper captain told me himself that he didn't want to be there, his men didn't want to be there, they were stuck in the middle. So the policeman gives me a name, And I said, we'll oust him. Because I figured if the elders knew who it was, they will oust him. So, well, the very first thing that was said as I saw the police approaching, I said to him, I said, normally I'll ask how you're doing, but under the circumstances, I think it's pretty obvious. And then he asked me why I'm there, and then we proceeded to have our exchange. And then at the end of it, I said, we'll oust him. I said, have a good night. And he's like, be safe. I'm so tired of hearing that phrase. Everywhere I go, people are, be safe, and there's nothing safe about it. So as soon as I turned around, there was a whole platoon of Marines who had come to back me up, and that really felt good. I mean, that was something. Little did I know how agitated some of the Marines were, especially my company commander and some of the other disgruntled vets. They did not like me going up there alone. They didn't understand that if there was more than one of us, it could be deemed a threat to the police and that might provoke an incident. So I felt it best to go up there solo. I felt that went well. The intel that we gained at the bridge from the police, the officer told me his name was Luke. It was a good exchange. There was no antagonism on their part, other than the frustration of standing guard at a duty station. That's not very pleasant. So, among the most remarkable things I thought were turning around and seeing this platoon of Marines who had my back. That really felt incredible. And the whole road was full of people at this point. So many people had come up onto the road at this point. I mean, this was something that happened in the span of seconds and minutes. And this is late at night, cold, below zero, howling wind, and you've got hundreds of people now on the road near the bridge. These people are motivated, dedicated. Soldiers and citizen soldiers, some who want trouble, others who really care, but all of them dedicated to the extreme. And so now I'm walking with this group of Marines, and that's feeling really good. And then a vehicle belonging to Lieutenant Colonel Casey, driven by a woman named Charlotte, comes up and stops and tells me to get in. And we speed away, much to the demise, or to the Marines didn't like it that I went up there alone and then left them behind. Many of them questioned my command after that. They didn't understand. However, I got to relay the intel directly to the elders at that point, and that was hugely valuable. Until tonight, I did not make the connection between the name that the police gave me and the individual whom I found out was routinely antagonizing the police, putting forward shows of force and drones and night vision and night recon, all kinds of operations that were antagonizing the police, making the police more on edge, more likely to do harm to the innocent people. So it was a prime directive not to be harassing the bridge and to have any sort of march on the bridge be a collective endeavor. The elders were for the most part disregarded. There was one particular off-camp chief who was directing the group of 30 security operatives whom I consider to be thugs based upon everything considered. And my intuition says they're paid by DAPL, that these were paid agitators by the oil company to keep things stirred up, to prevent a real action from happening. And we saw this in CIA do this in Afghanistan and Iraq, where if things were starting to mellow out, if things were starting to calm down, CIA would hire locals who are Muslim, but who are violent, fundamentalists, and would pay them to do false flag terror. And then the United States and coalition forces would have no choice than to retaliate, just keep perpetuating the war machine. So it was happening at a microcosmic level at Standing Rock. And these 30 men who were in charge of security, these guys were not, a lot of them were not very kind or friendly. These guys are war veterans who saw some shit and were creating more shit to participate in. Didn't seem like they really cared about the land, didn't seem like they cared at all about the people, and they didn't listen to the elders except the one elder that they were listening to who was perpetuating the agitation. So I just made the connection tonight, and the head of security was from the Ocheti Shikoing tribe, who for eons was in charge of that area and security. After the incidences, after the vets left, the Ocheti Shikoing took over the entire operation. And I was told that when the vets leave, the place is going to get raided. However, I think that the logistics of doing so and the repercussions were too great for the police to face. 30 below, and many people on the edge of survival, it didn't seem feasible for there to be a raid. And now 1,000 people remain, and these people are dedicated warriors. These people are hard chargers, both civilian and military, and Lakota, and Dakota, and Dene, and Cheyenne, and Apache, mostly Lakota. And they're sticking it out no matter how long it takes, no matter what the costs or the suffering. And it's they who will, in my mind, make all the difference of whether or not Standing Rock is successful as a peaceful demonstration. The people enduring the cold, not the quasi-security who are not doing their job. The security of Standing Rock was a joke. It's like intentionally taking people away from their posts so that weapons and other people could come in unchecked. It's like, I think this happens in any type of war zone where there's two elements, the people for and against, and then there's those who are playing both sides. And, I admire these men. I admire their warrior spirit. I admire their prowess, their capability. And I empathize with their twisted minds from battle. But it's important, I feel, for people to know, for America to know, for the world to know, for the Native Americans to know, and for the protesters and water protectors to know that their efforts were being undermined by people who are paid by DAPL to come in and cause trouble and to agitate and to perpetuate the conflict and to prevent there from being any real action. Fortunately, due to immense prayer and immense dedication on the part of the people, and this fact that the contract expires and that the investors are getting antsy and that there's a deadline looming of less than 1 month. So if these people can hold out 1 more month, the pipeline project may be terminated, which to me is only a small victory compared to the thousands of other incidences going on all over the world just like this. So the task at hand is to publish as swiftly and as thoroughly as possible with text, photos, and video exactly what happened, direct experience, speculation, rumor, and put it all together for the reader to decide so that the next operation, the next action, the next conflict is more well informed, and that these agitators are kept in check and exposed. I admire the head of security of the Ocheti Shikoin camp. However, I told him I do not agree with his objectives. He told me that safety was his first priority, and that's bullshit. His first priority was having fun, antagonizing the police, and getting paid really well to do it. And so much money was coming into those camps every day. People, poor, impoverished natives would show up at the gate and have $300, $400, $500 to give, and they would just give it to who's ever at the gate. The people at the gate were the antagonizers who pocketed the money. So thousands upon thousands upon thousands of dollars were pocketed by security. And many were using it to get drunk, buy drugs, have a good time, while other people are suffering. Tonight, I just made the connection that the police officer Luke told me the name of the main agitator who was cutting the concertina wire and pulling the cement blockades off the bridge with a semi. He said his name was Michael Marcus. And the head of security came and introduced himself to me as Mike Rattler. I just now made the connection. It's probably the same person. And there's so much more, but that's enough for now.